Kenny Molotov here. What's going on? I hope everybody's doing okay. I want to talk briefly about, how the week's been, basically. See if a bunch of you can pop on and we can hang out. Tell you about the week. And the general topic I want to talk about very briefly is just hydration. It's an actual large part of our trade that we don't really talk about. And I think there needs to be a bigger conversation about that. We are kind of like athletes in the sense that we are asked to put demand on our bodies in order to get the work done. I think that's one of the biggest difference between working a blue collar trades job in comparison to working a white collar job. If you are exhausted in a white collar job, in a lot of circumstances, not all, of course, you are sitting down at a table a lot of the times during the day. I'm sure there's a lot of walking, no doubt about that. But when you're tired in a blue collar job, you don't really. David Dillon, what's going well? Let's do some delicious plumbing. So just talking about basically hydration, Peeps and David. I just want to talk about the demand that goes on our body and what we need to do to upkeep that, because the big difference between white collar work and blue collar work is that if you're tired and you're a blue collar worker, you don't really have the luxury of taking rest. You sometimes have to do very demanding things on your body, even though you were up with the baby all night, or the dog was barking all night, or whatever, and all those circumstances kind of arise with everybody. But there's a lot to be said about having to push your body. So I want to talk about quickly hydration and something that I've noticed about myself. I normally drink a lot of water just generally because for some reason I'm always thirsty. So even though when I'm fully hydrated, I'm still drinking. I'm still. Deontay, hey bro. Hope you and the fam are staying safe and healthy. Thank you, Deontay. We absolutely are. I hope you're doing well. So one thing I just want to talk about briefly before we get into questions and stuff like that. David, I want to know about how work's going, if it's opened up. I know you said there was a bunch of workers that were working, but we're waiting for it to open up. I want to know more. Give me one sec. One thing I've noticed about the summer is the first week of summer, the first week that it really gets hot, you sort of have to kick in those really good habits of drinking water. I've noticed that the first week of summer is the first week of real heat here in Ontario. I normally don't pick up the pace till the second week. So the first week's usually nightmarish, where I'm like, why am I always tired? And it's just because you're not getting enough water in. So I typically bring 2 water bottles with me in my kit, and they are literally this size, pretty big, and carrying a lot of water. I think each of them is probably, this is 40 ounces, and I think the other one I have is 40 ounces as well. So you just got to make sure that you have them with you, and that every time you sit for a break, if you do sit for a break, you're chugging that. And then what I notice is that if you're eating lunch, you have to be drinking water. And I find for myself, I have to balance my water and my caffeine. If I don't balance it well, the caffeine will put me into a place where I'm amped up but really dehydrated, and there's going to be a crash coming. So you got to drink enough water to stay hydrated and make sure all's well. David, if you're still with us, how's Kentucky going? Deontay, thank you, man. I hope you're staying safe as well. What's going on with you guys at home? Dave? How's Kentucky? Is it open? Is your company open? No, not made the list yet. Fingers crossed. Still doing the side jobs. Nice. Replaced 2 water closets and did a gut change out on one. Grand total was $11.50. Not bad for 1 day work. Nice. So 2 water closet changes replaced, and then the third one you changed all the guts. So I guess you did a tank to bowl kit, you did the fill valve, you did the tank to bowl kit, fill valve, the flapper. So you did a bunch of those things. Anything else? Am I missing anything there, David? What else did you do for that? Deontay, wherever you're living, is everything safe there? Sue, hey, how's it going? Hints and tips to get used to heat and humidity, along with increasing your stamina as a new apprentice. So, Sue, Dave said yep. Oh, so all those things. Awesome. So, Sue, I was just talking about hydration. Hydration is really, really crucial, Sue. You need to make sure you have water on you. at all times. And I think what you have to remember is anytime you're having a meal, water has to come with that meal. I think digestion actually is, hydration is really required for digestion because as you're digesting, your body is being soaked up of its water. So you got to make sure that you're adding water into your system at all times. I find that for myself, you got to make sure there's a balance between the caffeine and the water. If there's too much caffeine in my system and not enough water, I get super dehydrated. I get really amped up. I get a lot of work done, and then I have a crash, and I can't finish the day off as strong. So with water, I find I have a more sustained pace. Now, in regards to stamina, Sue, all you got to do is keep plugging away. Stamina comes with time, unfortunately. It's not something you can do in a short range game. It's a long range game. You got to take your time with that, and you'll notice your body making changes over the years. I didn't get work fit until a couple of years in. My dad was outworking me, honestly, for the majority of my apprenticeship. So, Sue, it's common for everybody to experience that, honestly. All you have to do, keep hydrated. Also, there's something to be said about healthy eating in the sense that you got to eat light things throughout the day. I don't mean small portions. I mean, small portions are pretty good for most people, but nutritious portions, like getting all the nutrients in, like you need your carbs, you need your proteins, you need your healthy fats, but more importantly, meals that don't make you feel like you're tired. I find that the more complex the food is, if you go buy a burger, your body processes that differently than if you just had, chicken breast with rice with a really nice condiment and a small little salad. It takes more energy for your body to digest that burger than it would, the smaller portion meal that has more nutritional value. So, Sue, you just got to fuel your body with good stuff. Hydrate, and I mean hydration is key. I'm always a stickler with my dad. I'm always nudging him, going, "Look, you got to drink more." Like, Dad is really into the caffeines. He loves his iced cappuccino midday. He loves his coffee in the morning. He's like a two coffee morning kind of guy, I think. My dad's the kind of person where he could have coffee right before he falls asleep. I'm not like that at all. If you put a coffee in me, first of all, coffee and I, we don't mesh. We're in a bad relationship. I'm a tea kind of person. You put caffeine in me before sleep, man, dude, I'm going to be doing backflips. So that's a major thing. Sue, fuel your system with what it needs. It needs water, 100%. Get that caffeine in, but make sure it's balanced with the water. You have a PA interview coming up soon, and I'm excited and nervous, Sue. It's normal to feel both those things. Good luck. Let us know how it goes, and hit me up with more questions. So Deontay, currently waiting for an interview with the Plumbers Union. They told me early August. Deontay, awesome. So happy to hear that, man. Awesome. Really cool stuff. Did they tell you what they're going to be talking about? Are you going to have a test for the union? Or is it just going to be a sit-down interview? Let me know what that system is. Maybe we can talk about certain things you can prep with. Oh, David got a new supply line as well. Absolutely. That makes a lot of sense. You always got to be adding that new supply line. Supply lines, from what I hear, are the biggest insurance claim when it comes to, I think, all plumbing. I think supply lines, from what I've heard, have been the biggest kind of thing that always kind of fails. So number one is always supply lines. So always add a new one. Absolutely. Dave is saying, Kenny, as a former military medic, this was a big concern of mine for soldiers training. I always said if they were sweating and not drinking, they were wrong. Water and Gatorade were only allowed drinks. David, absolutely, man. I'm glad you brought that up because I think you were in Afghanistan, if I'm not wrong. And Afghanistan is, wow, like the climate is entirely different from what it's like here in Ontario. I mean, it is always cooking from what I understand in Afghanistan. And if that water is not being replenished, man, it's a perfect storm for some sort of collapse. Peeps, I had heat stroke probably about 7 years ago. It was the worst experience I've ever had. And honestly, for some reason, it manifested very similarly like food poisoning for me. The moment I realized, basically, I thought I had food poisoning for an entire day where I couldn't keep any fluids in me. Like, everything was running out of me. And when I realized that it happened for more than 2 days, I was like 3 days in when I realized, like, normally food poisoning, whenever I've had it, it's a 1 day process. The next day, I'm sort of like better. This was 2 or 3 days for me. And I remember the moment that I realized it was food poisoning. Or, I mean, noticed that it was heat stroke. Here's what happened. My wife and I, girlfriend at the time, we went to Canada's Wonderland. Canada's Wonderland in Ontario is a really big theme park. Lots of roller coasters. They have a water park, the whole shebang. It's the best place to go. Lots of fun. I'm not good with rides, by the way, but my wife loves them. So, I had to be a good sport, and suck it up. So anyways, when we got there, I remember sweating and I ended up having a Diet Coke. The moment I had that Diet Coke, and we had a hot dog, the moment I had that, for some reason, everything collapsed. So what ends up happening is I don't realize I stopped sweating. At midday, high noon, we end up going to the water park. Peeps, the moment I dunked my head into the water, I knew something was wrong because I came up and I went, I feel legitimately like I'm steaming off the head and cooling off right now. I feel like, when you heat up a fitting and you pour water on it to cool it off, you hear that steaming sound, that shh. I legitimately felt like that's what had happened to me. So that was it, man. It was game over from there because I started feeling the symptoms of feeling totally crappy. Then we went into an air conditioned place, and when we hit the air conditioning, I went, man, I am not good. I'm done. And then it was 3 days of me trying to keep fluids in and just trying to recover. It's the worst experience. You have to keep hydrated. You were saying a bunch of things here, David. I want to read it all. David's saying, did you know once you have a heat emergency, you're always susceptible to having another? No, I did not know that. So please be careful, and we'll hit you harder and faster if it happens again. David, thank you for telling me that. And you know what, Dave? I am a big stickler of going outside, like, in the sense that I'm the kind of person now that I wear like a white long sleeve shirt, like a thin cotton material long sleeve shirt, because I'm also really pasty. Like, the skin on me is naturally really white, so I burn right away. So I'm the kind of individual that'll go out in a long sleeve shirt in really hot weather just because, man, I just don't do well with heat. And I'll be wearing a hat and I'll be chugging water. I'll be super hydrated. And Dave, honestly, the first time it happened was like, in my head, I was like, this has to be the last time it happens, because that was game. Thank you for telling me that. I did not know that you're more susceptible to it after that. Deontay, I'm here in Ohio. In order to get to the interview, I had to take aptitude tests first and pass that. Awesome, which I did. And now the interview, from there, the selection of apprentices. Deontay, man, this is such a good story. First of all, huge congratulations. Passing the aptitude test, those aren't easy, man. You got to be on top of your game. So I'm sure that you put in your work and put in your time. Congratulations. You're kicking butt. Now's the next step. Don't be discouraged if it doesn't work out. But listen, you're doing great things. You're doing the right thing. You got to keep knocking on these doors now. The aptitude test is a big deal. Man, honestly, I wish you the best of luck. You want to tell us certain things that were on the aptitude test? I'd be interested to know. David saying, Deontay Richard, what part of Ohio? I'm in central Kentucky myself. On hot days, only water, no tea. Gatorade is accepted as well. All right, good to know, Dave. Now, Dave, question for you. When you say Gatorade, do you mean the stuff that comes right out of the store, or do you actually dilute that Gatorade as well a little bit with more water so that there's like a better ratio of whatever those electrolytes and sugars are to the water? That's what I'm interested. Deontay, what a great, great story, man. I'm really cheering for you right now, man. Best of luck. Kick butt, man. So they're saying early August. You're looking at about 3 weeks. I'm just wondering if there are any things. You know what, Deontay, if you check out my Day in the Life of a Plumber and Life of a Plumber kind of, what do you call them, playlists, I think that might be useful to you. Check out the plumbing math course if that's something you're interested in. It's 10% off, peeps. I got to say that right now. The plumbing math course is 10% off, so that you peeps can grab one. Deontay, in Cleveland, Ohio. My wife was there a little while back before COVID. She was doing a lot of work down there. Loves it, actually. That depends on how active you are and going to be that day. If not too active, dilute is fine. If very active, drink full strength. Oh, interesting. Cool, David. I find that for myself, whenever I get Gatorade from a store, it's a little bit too amped up for me. Like there's too much sugariness going on or whatever it is. I find that I personally enjoy it more once I dilute it just because I feel like I'm getting too much flavor, you know what I'm saying? And then I don't feel as great as I would if I just chugged water, sort of thing. So that's a big thing for me, but really good info. David, you're killing it with your medical background info, man. Awesome. I really appreciate that. So what's it like in Kentucky right now? And Deontay, what's it like in Ohio right now? Is everything safe? How are the numbers with COVID? Are the riots stopped? I honestly, I haven't watched the news a lot lately. Has everything kind of slowed down in regards to, breaking windows and stuff like that? That was a really scary moment. How's July 4th? Peeps, today's July 4th. Happy July 4th to all of our American friends. Independence Day. Hope you guys are doing all right. Not too bad, David's saying. Low 80s, riots still across the state. Not so bad right now, right here. Okay, man, these riots, man, these riots. Really, really, man, it's such a strange time right now. Such a strange time. Any info on intake of coconut water as a helper? You know what, David, coconut water. Thoughts on that as a medic in the Marines, did you say, or just the Army? I think it was the Marines. Coconut water for me, Sue, I'm not a huge fan of coconut water. I know my wife is. My wife's father, when they were much younger, like was importing coconuts or something like that. So they had coconut water every day. So there was a really long section of time where she had to get off of that. But I hear it's one of the best things for you in regards to hydration, and I think it's nutrient dense as well. Marines, bite your tongue. My bad, David. My bad, bro. Oh, Army all the way. Oh, I got you, David. Army. My mistake. Honest mistake from the Canadian. All right, let it go, please. So yeah, coconut water I think is actually good. David, let me know what you think, man. I don't know. I don't know. You probably know a bit better in regards to hydration, but definitely water. One thing that I know is some people can't stand the taste of water. They kind of really they just don't enjoy it. What you can buy is like stevia drops, which is like a sweetener. It's a natural sweetener, actually. You could also buy, like, they have this food coloring stuff that also, I think, has stevia in it. So you can add that to your water if it's a really big deal. Some people really have a hard time drinking water for some reason. Coconut water, from what I understand, are pretty good. So Dave is Army all the way. Sue, so are you working right now, or like what's the game plan with you? You said you have some sort of thing coming up. Let me read that again. We have a PA interview coming up soon. Plumbing apprentice, awesome. I'm excited and nervous. So Sue, what's the game plan now? Are you out and about? Are you working right now doing side jobs, or are you just waiting for the apprenticeship thing? My opinion is no difference, no caffeine in it, so should be safe. Carbonation and caffeine are bad for heat emergencies or preventions. Okay, good to know. So Dave, I got another question for you. I'm going to pick your brain about this. Okay, so what I've noticed and what I've also heard is really hot climate areas, like if you go to Egypt, for example, they're a really big tea culture. And I heard that's because when they drink the tea actually warms up their body and promotes sweating. Is that a thing? Does that actually work? Because I noticed for myself it does the same thing, but you are getting that kick of caffeine. So, is it a good thing, bad thing? I'm really curious to know what your thoughts are on that. Coffee, I know, man. I just, my body just doesn't sit right with coffee. So, couple of things, Dave. No, I'm working full-time in a cubicle with a company. I got you. Sue, if you're the type of individual that likes working with your hands, which I assume you are, that must be super difficult. That must be like mind-numbing, tough work. Is that how you're experiencing it? The aptitude test had English section, math, mechanical reasoning. Matthew, what's going on? Give me one sec. I'm going to talk to you in 1 sec. Deontay is saying the aptitude test had English section, math, mechanical reasoning, spatial ability, abstract reasoning, and a hands-on part. Passed everything except the hands-on part the first time. Deontay, no stress, friend. You're going to get the hands-on part. That's the whole apprenticeship. So I hear you. Look, you passing all those things, English, math, mechanical reasoning, spatial ability, abstract reasoning, dude, that's a big deal. That is a really big deal. The aptitude tests are given because you need to be at minimum up to that standard. And if you're passing that, man, you should be super proud. It means that when you meet another union test ever, that you've already experienced it and you already have the foundation designed that they need. You know what I'm saying? So you're doing fantastic work. Fantastic work. Deontay, keep it up, man. Keep it up. I'm really proud of you. Keep working. Keep doing that thing. Matthew McKay, Kenny, thanks for doing a Plumbstream. No problem. I love the name. I'm just curious to know, how old were you when you got into the program? I graduated from uni and can't find anything. So Matthew, I was 26 years old when I got into plumbing. I also have a degree from university. I got an honors degree in philosophy. Honestly, I took a really long undergrad. That's something I got to put out there. I did not take a full course load. I did about 5 years for my undergrad. So what ended up happening is I'm about a year, and I'm not even 6 months out of university, and I came to realize, you know what? I was doing comedy at the time. My comedy career really wasn't taking off the way I was hoping it would. And I eventually said to myself, you know what? I need a job that's not dead end, that I can move up in. And I looked towards my father. And I turned to him and I said, look, you're a one-man crew. I know you need the person power. But here's what I need. And I gave him stipulations because I was still chasing my comedy career. Every month I travel from Toronto, basically, to Ottawa. That's about a 5-hour drive. Every month I take 2-3 days off, basically. Travel to Ottawa and do a comedy club out there called Absolute Comedy. And I was doing that to put in FaceTime with the owner because he was a really cool cat, really great guy. And not only that, the club was banging. It was one of the best clubs probably I've ever had. I'd go there and I'd rock out 2 open mics, basically. And so I was telling my dad, look, this is all I need. I need to be able to go out to these clubs. And Dad's like, look, it's game. You got 3 days a week that you need off, or a month, no problem. So that's what it was for me, Matthew. I was 26 when I got in. That is actually a little bit below average. The average age now from getting into the trades is somewhere like 27 to 35. That's the biggest range. And you meet people that are getting into it even later than that. So it's not something that should be stopped by age. It really comes down to your desire, comes down to your problem-solving ability and your physical ability. That's what it comes down to. If you're able-bodied and this is the sort of work that you're interested in, go for it. And if you're not able-bodied, so what I'm saying is if you're struggling with some sort of disability in one way or the other, look, there might be ways to continue to do this trade, but you might be doing it differently than others. So that should be maybe an obstacle, but not a roadblock for some people out there, okay? So that's just something I need to say. Do not let age be an issue here. If you got the power and the interest, go for it. So I'm coming in a little bit late, but I'm worried that I'm getting too old to do certain things. Matthew, not at all. Listen, honestly, listen. If you're interested in this work, you are not going to plug away at an 8-hour day like you are in this work. So in other words, if this is what you're actually interested in and you're passionate about, you go sit in a cubicle, that's going to be rough for you. You're not designed for that work. You're going to do way more work in an 8-hour day because you're passionate about it on a job site. It's not about age. Peeps, this isn't one of those career, thanks, James. This isn't one of those careers where age is a limitation. And what I mean by that is that, look, obviously there is an age where at some point you're not going to be able to do the work. Okay, I get that. But, you know, when I was playing soccer, a couple of coaches approached us as a team and they'd say, look, honestly, if you don't have it by 16, you don't have it. And that used to break my heart. And the truth is that I think for a lot of people that's the case, but I think I think a lot of people can get trained up a little bit later. But listen, when you look at guys like Cristiano Ronaldo, at 16 he was signed. You know what I'm saying? This isn't one of those careers, peeps. You don't peak at 30 in this career. Do you know what I'm saying? In a lot of soccer instances, you peak at 30. Like 35 is an old age for a soccer player. That's what I'm saying. This is not one of those careers. This is the type of thing that if you enjoy doing it, you gotta do it. You understand? If that is the way your mind functions and your body follows it up, you're going to be doing other things. You're going to be miserable. So, Matthew, do not let age be a problem. It comes down to your problem-solving ability, your physical ability, and those things. If all those fall in line, you're game. You're good to go. Just try. Just keep plugging away, okay? So, Matthew, I hope that helps, okay? David, you're asking a very specific physiological question. I would have to be careful and say everyone is different, so your body will react differently. David, that is probably one of the nicest answers and also the most correct answer. It is on a person-by-person basis. Great answer, dude. Great answer. Thank you. Okay, Deontay said, except was kind of discouraged, but I took it again in following month and passed, so it was a real proud and happy moment. Deontay, that's what it takes, fam. That's what it takes. It takes trials and tribulations are a part of the game. You know what I'm saying? Listen, I was extremely discouraged. When I took my Red Seal exam, so at the end of your apprenticeship here in Ontario, actually in the nation, you got to take your licensing exam. The licensing exam is called the Red Seal. I took it twice, okay? Now here's what had happened. I took it the first time, and as I'm writing the test, I realized to myself, I studied the wrong things. So a lot of people were kind of heavy in study the practice tests. And then other people were like, no, you got to read those notes the teacher gave you. I read the notes, okay? And I did the practice tests. I didn't focus on the practice tests. When I sat down and I did the test for the first time, as I'm sitting there, I'm going, you know what? I'm going to fail this test. Like, I should have studied the practice tests. And look, that's what it takes. Deontay, that's what it takes. That's what it takes to problem solve. Sometimes you got to get your butt kicked to problem solve. I got my butt kicked on the first test. And actually, I was like, I got something like 58% or 60%, 58 to 60%. The following time, I passed and I got a 10, 11% bump. But it took me not doing well the first time to don't get discouraged. What I'm trying to say is you gotta get your butt kicked a couple of times to eventually get it. You know what I'm saying? I can't tell you how many times the ball's been taken off of me in soccer. Maybe a million times. But at some point, it got taken off of me so much, I got good at making sure it never came off of me. You know what I'm saying? Deontay, don't get discouraged. I'm really proud that you tried again. That's what it takes. That's what it takes to be a winner. So let me go back. I know a lot of people are talking. Words of wisdom from James. I appreciate that. David is giving a huge thumbs up to Deontay. Don't ever give up. I am right there. I'll tell anybody now, don't be afraid to get into plumbing of your worries about the math or the test to get in. Me, myself, I'm not good in math too much, and I'm also prevented me from trying to apply. Deontay, I'm with you 100%. Look, you're not looking at somebody who's strong at math. Later in my life, math started making more sense as I kind of started becoming an adult, but it's not my strong suit. I know how to do it, but I'm not natural at it. Like some people I think, learn the game of math and like their minds are so designed for it. Like it just works so well. And I think whenever you meet engineering types, that's sort of it. Like they see the numbers and once the game is explained to them, it's like, ooh, I can play. I was not that kid. You know what I'm saying? Now, as I'm aging, I'm getting better, but I don't know why. It's just strange that it's happened that way. So Deontay, great words of advice right there. Don't be worried about the math, peeps. The whole point is, look, honestly, life isn't fun without obstacles. I know they suck. That's what you got. They do suck. I'm with you. But getting everything is also not a good thing. Like, meaning it's got to be tough. It makes it meaningful when it's tough. You know what I'm saying? So, look, a lot of us suck at math coming into the trade, but we eventually get really good at it just because it's what we're doing on the job site. You know what I'm saying? And it's part of the game. Use whatever drive you have in your system to figure out what math is. And peeps, shameless plug, I have a plumbing math course. It's 10% off. Peeps, I'm sorry, I had to. It's 10% off, 10 and a half hours of content. So do me a favor, go on to my last video. You can get the 10% code down there. If you need plumbing math help, I go through my entire apprenticeship of math. Let me keep reading. Deontay, great words of advice, man, and keep working. But I went through with it, even though I stressed like crazy. But once I took the test, it wasn't nearly as hard as I thought it'd be. Sometimes we are our own worst enemy. Deontay, you can't be too prepared. I'm with you 100%. I'm the same way. I'm such a worry wart that I'll over prepare for things. You know what I'm saying? So it's always a blessing to walk into it that way. But I hear you completely. That's exactly the way I am. Matthew McKay, thank you. I really appreciate your passion, the way you speak, and the in-depth answer. That was one of the nicest, most honest, and very inspiring answers. A strong motivation going forward. Matthew, thank you for those kind words, but I'm genuine in the answer. And what I said to you, I'm genuine about it. This isn't about age. This is about passion. This is about drive. This is about what makes you wake up in the morning. If waking up in the morning and you're going to an office and you're sitting back going, man, I'm always inside, and you're not liking it, and you find yourself, you're fidgeting with things, and you really enjoy textures. And when a buddy says, hey, look, I need help with lifting this, you're like, yeah, let's go. If you're that type of person, man, I'm telling you, you understand the world very intuitively through your body. So everybody does that, but there are some people that don't. Like, meaning it's not the first way they interpret the world. I don't know if I'm making a good explanation about it, but let me explain the difference between my wife and I. My wife is exceptionally gifted in her cognitive abilities. She's super smart. She's one of the smartest people I know, and way smarter than me, and not the same as me. The way my intelligence comes from is through my body. So I can do things where she can't do things. And I'm just talking about in regards to like using our body. So if we're with the dog, I'm keeping up with the dog, you know what I'm saying? And me and the dog are playing tactilely. And my wife, she does it, but it's not the same. Like, in other words, my wife has a really large development cognitively. Unfortunately, I'm not as cognitively developed as she is. I'm more physically developed, but that is like sort of ingrained in our, I don't know, in our personal makeup, maybe even a little bit of our biology, especially in our biology probably. But if you're the type of individual that you need to grab onto something, man, go for it. Grab onto it. Get that type of work in your system, because when you get that into your system, it's way more meaningful for you. If you need to chase the ball, chase the ball. That's what I'm saying. If you're designed to chase the ball, chase the ball. If you're designed to sit down and read, sit down and read. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's what your system is made of. So don't ever stop. If you're interested in it, chase it, man. David, Deontay Richard, to take a lesson from a kid's movie, remember Hakuna Matata? What a wonderful phrase. Hakuna Matata. Ain't no passing craze. It means no worries for the rest of your days. No worries. Okay. Go and do your best. If you fail, you failed this time. Not forever. Say Hakuna Matata and do it again. You will get it. Peeps, we should all get Hakuna Matata tattoos. That's what I'm saying. If you ain't plumbing, you ain't nothing. They were literally shutting the lights off as I'm finishing my last question on my Red Seal plumbing. Oh, well, first of all, congratulations on passing your Red Seal. Man, that test, peeps. So if you ain't plumbing, you ain't nothing. I'm asking you a question right here, because this is my experience. I want to know if you had the same one. You know, people would walk out of that test, and like before I took it, I'd be like, so what was on the test? And they'd look at me like this, like blank. And they'd go, man, I don't know. And I'd sit back and I'd go, what the heck do you mean you don't know? You were in there for 3 hours. Bro, you gotta know. You gotta help me out. And they'd be like, dude, I can't. And they'd walk away, and I'd be like, man, it's like they saw a ghost. Peeps, the first time I walked into that test and I walked out, it is so cognitively demanding. You're fried on the way out, brain fried. And I remember I called a buddy up who was going to take it in a couple of weeks. And he goes, dude, what was on it? And I was like, bro, I can't even remember a single question. Like, I can't even remember one. And he'd be like, what do you mean? Like, was this on it? I'd be like, yeah, that was on it. What was the question? Dude, I don't know. I can't remember. And then he took the test. And then he was like, man, I know what you mean. Like, it was so brain frying, man. Like, I had such a hard time with it. Deontay is saying, appreciate it, Dave. I love the love and support here, peeps. Deontay, man, honestly, it makes my heart really happy to hear that people on the community are doing well for themselves. And you know what? Finding that stepping stone, you know what I'm saying? Rome was built in many, many years. So, you had barely remember anything right after, but a few days after it starts coming back. You're right, but you ain't plumbing, you ain't nothing. It comes back in a bad way. For me, it was like, oh man, you remember that question? Bro, I definitely got that question wrong. And you start kicking yourself about it, going, man, I totally got that question wrong. There's nothing worse than taking the test and then reading through your notes after going, oh yeah, this was on it. What's the answer? Oh man, I definitely didn't put that answer down. And you start psyching yourself out like that. Man, honestly, the second writing was a blessing for me. I walked out of that test, the second writing, here's what I gotta say. I walked out of the second writing thinking to myself, okay, I have no idea if I passed because that still was a root canal. It still was really difficult. But I definitely know I kicked the last score's butt. That's how I walked out, and I was proud of that feeling. Because in the back of my head, I'm going, you know what? If I bump up 5% every time I write this test, I'll write this test until I pass. That's it for me. For me, it was like doing reps. You know, when you're working out, you got to put in those reps. That's what it was for me. I eventually was like, you know what? I'm not going to let this test beat me. If I got to write it 5 times, I'll write it 5 times. But I was so happy that I walked out of that test going, you know what? I definitely did better than last time, which lets you know you're on the right track. And for me, knowing that you're on the right track and the road is going towards your destination is way more important than getting necessarily the result you need. You know what I'm saying? Because eventually that result will come. So, if you went plumbing, yeah, I answered that. Okay, Matthew McKay, what would you say your best day on the job looks like, and what would be one of your worst days like? Okay, so Matthew, and I think David answered. Dave, you know what, Dave? Answer it. Answer it. I'm curious to know your answer, Dave. Don't go for it. And I'll read it out for the peeps. So Matthew, honestly, here's what I got to say. There are days that are awesome but aren't challenging. And then there are days that are challenging and that are awesome. And then there are days that are challenging that are terrible. And then there are days that aren't challenging that are terrible. So like you have a spectrum, but I'm going to go through it. Okay, so there are days that are awesome, Matthew. There are days that are awesome that aren't challenging. So in other words, you go to a job site and you walk in and they say, you know, the toilet's running. And you test the toilet, you know it's probably a flapper issue. You change the flapper out, you're good. And you're like, oh, okay, that was easy. Like I was there for 15 minutes, if you checked a couple other things, you might be there for half an hour, but it was a really fast job, you're out. And that's a non-challenging day or a non-challenging job where you go, I had a pretty easy day, And sometimes you get 2 or 3 calls in a row like that where you show up and you just realize, okay, this thing needs to be tightened. You tighten the faucet and you're good to go. So Matthew, there's that. And then my favorite days are actually this. My favorite days are you come to a water closet you've installed before, but it kicked your butt last time. And the reason why it kicked your butt last time was because the water closet is a little bit more complicated. You got to put one of those comes with one of those special devices that does the seal for you. And on top of that, you meet a flange that's broken, for example. Okay, here's a big example. Now, every time you meet a broken flange, you got to repair that flange. But I remember one day I get both of these at the same time, and I flew through the flange installation or the flange repair, and I flew through the water closet. So maybe it took me an hour and a half, 2 hours last time. Peeps, I was out of there in an hour. It was a challenging day, but I put it together and I sat in the truck driving away going to myself, wow, I got better than last time. That was way better. I've never done it that fast before. Those are really satisfying days. Really satisfying days, Matthew. And those days are days where you kind of hit a milestone in your head. You might even jot it down, to be honest. I remember something would happen where I was like, man, I could never do that before. I did it like this. And I jot it down in my phone just to remind myself, hey, you've been sucking for a long time, but look, here's a result, hey? Here's a really good result. So, Matthew, those are very satisfying days. When you run through a job that used to beat you up and you totally had it on the ropes the whole time, you know what I'm saying? Those are really good situations. Okay, the hard days, Matthew, the hard days. And I had one of these this week. So, all right, story time. Let me tell you a quick story about Moen shower control valve. Peeps, man, these shower control valves, we came up to a cartridge. And if you've ever dealt with a Moen shower control valve cartridge, you know, especially the really old ones, sometimes they seize and you can't pull them out. And what you have to do is break them out piece by piece because they are lodged inside. They're not coming out. I've gotten really good at taking them out, but this one kicked my butt, and I'm pretty sure it was like a 15-year-old faucet, something like that. So anyways, I end up taking it out and breaking it piece by piece, but what ends up happening is I end up breaking the actual control valve. It starts snapping, and it becomes deformed. I put the new cartridge in to turn on the faucet. Water is coming out of where it's supposed to be sealed by the cartridge. I was miserable, and I was blaming myself for it a lot. And thankfully, Dad kind of talked me off the ledge, and he was like, listen, this is common, eh? Sometimes you're going to meet a cartridge that just won't come out, and the only way it's going to come out is by fighting it. And if you fight it, sometimes you're going to deform the actual piece. So it's normal. This happens a lot. So we had to change out the control valve. But Matthew, what you have to realize is taking out a cartridge takes 15 minutes if it comes out. You know what I'm saying? If you got to break it piece by piece, it might take a half an hour to come out, but it's not a terribly long time. Replacing a shower control valve takes time. You got to open up the tile. You got to take out the old. You got to put in the new. You're looking at a couple of hour job now, especially if you fought with the cartridge to begin with. So those are really tough days because you're in your head. I was in my head that entire day. Honestly, I was miserable the whole day going, you know, I messed this up and this and that. And thankfully, my dad's like, dude, I've done this 100 times, meaning there are times where this happens. Like you're skilled enough to know that you have the skills to get it done. If it's not happening, a lot of times it's because the damn thing is seized inside there. And Matthew, those are tough days. There's also another type of tough day that you have where it's really grueling work. So really grueling work in the sense that, you know, you're going to be digging. But at the same time, even though it's hard, you have a good time about it. So Matthew, I hope I got the spectrum right for you. I hope you understand the differences and how they work, sort of. So I want to hear David. David is saying, worst one, when the customer is standing over you asking questions about every little thing and not just plumbing, but like tool uses, etc. David, you're preaching to the choir, fam. 100%. I should bring that up. I'll talk about that a little bit. David's saying, best easy payday. Yeah, that's good. Kenny, I love those situations. I love the challenging of thinking about them. And afterwards, I'm like, yeah, I did something there. Internal pride comes through. Absolutely, David. Matthew is saying, haha, I'm happy to hear that you overcome a challenge. It's always a really nice feeling. And like David said, the internal pride coming through. Thank you for your answer, David. You ain't nothing, you ain't plumbing. Do you guys give free estimates or charge by hour? If you ain't plumbing, you ain't nothing. No, we do free estimates, absolutely. One thing I gotta say, there's a distinction I think needs to be made. Sometimes what's happened in the past is we've been called out to a job and we had to do a repair. So, but there's a troubleshoot that happens in the repair. Anil, what's going on? Give me 1 sec. I'll read this in a question. So there's a troubleshoot that takes place that isn't free. Like you have to walk around, you have to study the system for a bit to figure out what exactly is leaking, sort of thing. And you find out the leak, and you do a repair, and also you'll give them an estimate about something else, and then all of a sudden they'll be like, "You're charging me for the full 2 hours?" Of course I am. I troubleshooted the leak. So we've had that happen where people all of a sudden are like, what do you mean I have to pay you? Here's another one. Sometimes you just troubleshoot an issue and then you give them an estimate of how much it would cost. And they're like, okay, see you later. And you're like, wait, I have to charge you for the service call. And they're like, wait a minute, you didn't do anything. And then you're sitting back going, wait a minute, I did. I troubleshooted the leak. I troubleshooted the issue. It takes time. That's my time. That's my gas. That's the insurance. You're not going to get a free lunch here. That doesn't make any sense. You know what I'm saying? So you ain't plumbing, you ain't nothing. We do give free estimates. If somebody's got a large job coming and they say, hey, can I get an estimate? We'll go over there, we'll take a look, and we'll walk out. You know what I'm saying? But if it's a troubleshoot, sometimes you have to explain that to the customer that, look, that's not free, man. That's hours and hours for me to get good at that, first of all. And second of all, it's like, why would my time be free to you? That's not fair. You know what I'm saying? So David is saying, and he's responding to, you ain't plumbing, you ain't nothing. For your side gig, I tell people I don't do estimates, I fix the problem. Okay, that's an interesting approach. And David, you're coming, you're doing service work. You know what I'm saying? One thing I got to stipulate is when we're giving free estimates, it's usually for a larger job. It's not usually for service work. A lot of times for service work, kind of like David's saying, you have to go troubleshoot. That's not an estimate. That's time and effort. You know what I'm saying? I got to cut holes sometimes to do that. So, no, on service work, no. Anil, hello, I'm Anil from Italy, and you live in Italy. I want to become a plumber. What qualities we need to become a good plumber? Anil, I think a lot of qualities that good workers in general, okay, so let me try to break this down a little simply. I find that most people that work in the skilled trades really enjoy working with their hands. So in other words, they would much rather be, digging or figuring out a physical problem, a problem of like distance, or, just exerting their body. That's a big deal for a lot of people in the trades. Sitting down and being in a classroom is really hard for people like that. They would much rather be outside or be on a job site doing something like that. So that's number one. Number two, you got to be interested in building. Building is a big deal. So in other words, you got to really enjoy sort of watching the Lego pieces come to fruition, sort of thing. So there's a lot there as well. So Anil, I hope that answers. It's a short answer, but those are two really big ones. I'm talking a mile a minute. All right, hold on. Hey, Kenny, sorry, thank you for that answer as well. I appreciate that. No problem, Matthew. David is greeting Anil. Matthew is saying, good question. I was going to ask that as well, but if you do have time, I want to thank you again. And this is for everyone. Oh, Matthew, I appreciate that, man. Thank you. I appreciate you. I appreciate us hanging out, man. Happy July 4th if you're celebrating. If you were to go back in time, would you choose plumbing again or study plumbing again, and why? Matthew, I would definitely go back again and choose plumbing again because I've come to fall in love with plumbing, to be honest. I think it's quite obvious to people that know my story. I'm very passionate about art. And I think art was always going to be at the forefront of my drive and my chases. But when I started plumbing, I was a little bit sad getting into my apprenticeship because I was kind of putting away art for a minute. And then I came to realize that, I got way better at plumbing. So good that I started really enjoying it. And so good that I started loving it. So when I go to work, I really love troubleshooting issues. I really love installations. I really love rough-ins. I could see myself doing this for the rest of my life. The other thing that plumbing has been a great blessing is Plumbing has funded the rest of my art passions. It's funded my YouTube career. You know what I'm saying? Thus far, I make a little bit of money off of YouTube, but not nearly enough to keep up with the cameras that I need and to keep up with all that. So that's a big deal for me as well. And that's why I would definitely go back and play it all again the exact same way. My story, I look back at my story and there were lots of bumps in that road, but I'm really proud of that road that I've gone down. And I'm really proud that I've been able to get past these obstacles. And, knock on wood, I hope I'm blessed to continue doing that. You know what I mean? David, Matthew McKay, yes, because I love the chance to use my hands and fix things. David, you sound like you've been designed for the trade, man. Totally. Everything that you tell me, Dave, sounds like you are definitely on the right track. Kenny, how does it feel to have a skilled trade? Deontay, listen, I think one of the most amazing things about having a skilled trade is seeing the value people attribute to you. You know what I'm saying? So a lot of times, when I was first in my apprenticeship, especially wanting to be famous and, on doing music or whatever, whenever I would say plumber at the beginning, especially around the people that I grew up with, it was a weird thing. None of my friends went into the skilled trades. I'm going to repeat that. None of my friends went into the skilled trades. There was only one dude that went to university with all these friends and went into the skilled trades. So saying the word plumber was kind of weird to them. They were like, oh, okay. And it was an entirely different life that they didn't understand. But every time I met somebody, bro, who paid me? David, you're the sweetest creature alive. I'm definitely going to be doing more videos of in the field. So Dave, you're saying you want to see more day in the life of a plumber stuff, right? Absolutely, fam. Absolutely. I really appreciate the money, peeps. If you do end up giving me the super chats, I will fund that money straight towards editors and stuff like that, because I'm finding it difficult to keep up with the editing. I ain't going to lie. But David, absolutely. Thank you, brother. I appreciate the love and support as always. Okay, so what was I saying? So Deontay, one of the awesome things I'm noticing is that whenever I wouldn't be talking to my friends, who kind of didn't know that world, they didn't buy homes at this point, they never needed a fixture installed. When I finally met a homeowner or somebody that kind of dealt with trades in the past, I'd go, yeah, I'm becoming a plumber. People would stop me, and they would be like, you're doing the right thing. Good for you. Oh, we need plumbers, man. Plumbers are really high in demand. You're doing the right thing. I remember there's a contractor I work with named Farzad, one of the sweetest contractors I've been blessed to meet. Farzad and I have a very similar background, but his actually goes further than mine. One day, I meet a superintendent, and we were really close with this super, and he goes, I want you to meet Farzad. Farzad comes in, and the super turns to Farzad. He goes, Farzad, Ken got an honors degree from philosophy. And I look at Farzad, and he goes, I'm doing my doctorate in philosophy. And Farzad is like a general contractor. He does drywall, he does painting, he does tile work, everything. I go, no kidding. I go, who are you studying under? And he brought up a name. And I met this philosopher, and I go, oh, she's a contractarian. And he like a big smile came on his face. He goes, indeed she is, because I read her work. And it was just this weird, it was like the Twilight Zone. And what's interesting is I talked to Farzad, and he goes, so what, you just joined the trade? I go, yeah. And Farzad grabbed me on the shoulder. He goes, listen, you're doing the right thing. Like, this is absolutely where you need to be, even with your background in academia. And Farzad is also in academia. Farzad teaches at a local college. He teaches philosophy. I mean, an exceptionally brilliant individual, exceptionally brilliant. Spent a lot of time on his mind, but spent a lot of time in the trades and is still doing the work. We still work with Farzad to this day to eventually realize that there's something, satisfying about the work, but man, the current economic place we're at, trades are super in demand, and Farzad's doing very well for himself. So that's how it feels, Deontay. It feels like all of a sudden people open their eyes at you and they go, man, I really need a skilled and also, good-hearted plumber. Like, everybody is so afraid of being ripped off from the trades because there are all these horror stories. So when they meet a really nice person and they also know that you're skilled in something that they're definitely going to need, it's a big deal, Deontay. You're going to notice that people are going to be like, wow, your foot is in the door and you're doing the right thing. So Deontay, it feels really good to be useful. You know what I'm saying? Matthew, thank you. I've recently discovered I like working with my hands over the pandemic, but I've never fixed anything physically outside my home, but I can see myself doing it. Matthew, that's what it takes for a lot of people. It takes trying it to eventually go, oh man, you know what? There's something right about this. You ain't plumbing, you ain't nothing. You should do a video on code and examples of how you rough something in. Good to see the different way people would do things. You ain't plumbing, you ain't nothing. Absolutely. I actually have that video in mind and I got the footage on the computer. I'm definitely going to be doing that in the near future. Really appreciate that. David, once again, I love you, brother. Thank you for sending the money this way. I appreciate you. Kenny, it is funny. People think plumbers are poor until I tell them that I made more than a surgical resident that I know. When I work my real job and my side job, I can make almost as much as a doctor. David, you're absolutely right. And I think that's attributed to the fact that there's a lot of demand. Oh, Peeps, I appreciate the thumbs up. If you can hit that thumbs up button, we have 7 people here. Can we get 7 thumbs up? I would love that. I think it's attributed to the fact that there are so little skilled trade workers in comparison to the amount of development taking place. Oh, the thumbs up are coming. I did an entire video just the other day. Literally, my last video is about this, which is, will plumbing always be in demand? I break it down into 3 different variables. The demand of, in regards to the amount of development, the demand of service, and then the demand of the amount of plumbers there are in the area. 6 thumbs up. You peeps are the best. So, Dave, I think you're absolutely right. I think people don't realize how much plumbers make because they're not paying attention to the amount of development there is taking place. But if you're anywhere near the housing market in regards to the work you do, or you're in the housing market, you're trying to buy or sell, or you have somebody in the skilled trades and you realize how big a deal the development is, it's a really big telling thing about, how much work is going to be needed, but also how much service is going to be needed as well. So, David, I'm with you, man. You're absolutely right. Vatu, isn't plumbing hard on the body? Vatu, absolutely. Thank you for joining us, by the way. Thanks for hanging out. Plumbing is definitely hard on the body. Here's something that I want to say, though. You know, my wife, she has a desk job. And she has really difficult times with her neck and her shoulders because she's staring at a computer screen all the time. So, in a really interesting way, that's hard on the body as well. Sitting down is not natural to our bodies for a long duration of time, and that's what my wife has to do. So, I think every job that we go to deteriorates it in a different way. That too, plumbing is hard on the body, but like anything, it gets easier and you also get smarter. So you realize what things you need to do better. So I'm always wearing knee pads. You'll see that in the video. I wish I spent the first few years of my apprenticeship really plugging away, making sure that that happens. I didn't. But I'm making up for it now. I'm trying to at least save whatever cartilage I have left because I definitely feel my knees. It's hard on the body, but it's very satisfying work to people that enjoy working with their bodies. I hope that answers your question, Vatu. Matthew is asking, David, are you unionized or non-unionized at the moment? James Wise is saying, exactly. You never know how much you're going to make. I agree completely. David Dillon, I could talk this all day, but also say don't just do one form of plumbing. Learn new construction and service. That will keep you employed. Absolutely. Look, there's a really important thing in the trade about being well-rounded. That's something I got to say right now. I've been blessed to be in a company, which is my father's company, because Dad will put his hands on anything. You know what I'm saying? In other words, if he's got to do a rough-in, he's gonna do a rough-in. If he's got to do drain work, he's gonna do drain work. If he's gonna do a remodel, he's gonna do a remodel. If he's gonna do a brand new coffee shop, like new construction, he's gonna do it. And you know what's really interesting about my dad, and I'm super proud about him for this, is that, you know, he's got a lot of anxieties. and he keeps pushing through them. You know what I'm saying? And I think, sorry, that's a separate topic, and I'm getting a bit emotional, but I'm proud of him. And I wish he understood that he should be proud of himself. But I'm blessed because I've become a really well-rounded plumber because of him. You know what I mean? And I owe a lot to my dad. Sorry, peeps. I'm getting a bit emotional. It's a big deal. He gave me my trade. You know what I'm saying? And I can't stop thanking him for that. Woo! Okay, get the emotion out. Sorry, peeps. Sorry, peeps. Lady Moore, what's happening? My knees are popping all day as well, fam. Every job is different. Let me go back a bit. Yeah, look, being well-rounded is really useful, and it's really a good survival mechanism because if you got to join the union and do new construction, absolutely. If you got to, and then service is an entirely different beast because you're dealing with old systems. You know what I'm saying? So, well-roundedness is really useful in this trade. If you have the stomach for service, you know, I know sometimes you got to deal with stuff that some people can't handle, but if you got the stomach for it, definitely try it out. If you're doing union, you know, definitely try new construction. I mean, it's all part of the game. Let me keep going. Lady Moore, thanks for hanging out. Deontay, here in Ohio, I've been listening to the Cleveland Building Trades podcast, and the executives always say that they need people getting into the trades. We have so much work, but we need more people. Deontay, that's right. It's the same here. We have a lot of incentives in Ontario to get people in the door. Just to give you firsthand accounts, every single year that I'd walk out of school, I'd get anywhere between 500 to a grand. That's $1,000, you know, and they're basically paying me to go to school because it covers my $400 or $500 tuition. You know what I'm saying? So it's a big deal. And there are incentives for ladies getting into the trades as well. There are incentives specifically for women getting into the trades because it's a very small female workforce in the trades. And we're noticing that a lot of women actually love working with their hands, which goes against, you know, theories of the past. And, you know, honestly, anybody who enjoys working with their hands needs to get in on this game, man. It's the time. It's the right place. We just got to get working. Matthew, speaking on that, I'm based in Ontario. Nice. Are there any future trends or growth you see in the trades in Canada, at least in the next 5 years post-COVID? Matthew, all I keep seeing with my trained eye for development is I keep seeing new subdivisions being built. You know, every time I drive down the street, I see a new subdivision. And what I see right there is you know, new construction plumbers are working those. But I also see B, oh, that's a lot more toilets to snake. That's a lot more back water valves to install, etc. You know what I'm saying? It's that's all I keep seeing. That's the trend. The trend is growth right now. In regards to trends plumbing-wise, I think we're going to start seeing more and more backflow preventers taking place. So getting your backflow license would be useful, but that's usually a third year. That's usually your advanced plumbing course. Either it'll do it for you, like you'll take the course in conjunction with your plumbing course, or you're going to have to get licensed and then go get that sort of thing. So you won't be able to do that until the end of your apprenticeship. But that's a trend as well. There's a lot of people that call us up and say, hey, we got a letter from the city saying we need a backflow preventer. What is that? And Dad and I have to go through the motions of explaining it and also figuring out what type for what kind of risk they have, etc. If you ain't plumbing, you ain't nothing. I do new commercial plumbing and would like to open up my own company in that way. You ain't plumbing, you ain't nothing. The sky's the limit, fam. Do it. Absolutely. If you're good at new construction, man, I've always been impressed by stories about plumbers that can plumb two houses in a day. That blows my mind, and I've never seen it done, and I just want to see how fast these individuals can work. That's always so cool. James Wise, it's understood. You're extremely helpful with these videos. Much respect. Thanks, James. Sorry, peeps. I got a little bit emotional. But it's a big deal. You know what I mean? It was a very big step in my life to join the trades. And honestly, I was turning a new chapter. It wasn't even a page, it was a new chapter in my life. I was basically saying to myself, look, and this is purely for my story. Here's what you have to know. I was basically saying we need to become adults, you know, and that was my story with myself. I was 8 years, 7 years in a relationship with my wife at that point. My life was stagnant. I was really trying with comedy, but you know, there were a lot of things not working against me, but the formula wasn't right for me. Something about comedy didn't work for me. So there was a really big revolution that took place in my life, and I just came to realize, look, nobody is going to chase those things. Avis, how's it going? Nobody's going to chase those things for you. If you want to get something, you got to go chase it, because literally everybody that's going to get something is chasing it. In other words, you got to find a ball that you enjoy chasing, and you got to chase that ball. If you don't chase that ball's moving away from you. And that was the conversation I had with myself, and that's why I'm emotional about it, because A, family is very important to me, and I love my dad to death. And B, I was basically telling myself, look, you gotta be an adult. You gotta get this going, man. Yeah, or else you're gonna stay in the same goddamn spot you've been staying this entire time. Yeah, all right. That's enough. That's enough. Aaron, I appreciate the like, fam. Vatu, how much free time do you have? Okay, Vatu, this is an important question. I struggled with this in the first few years of my apprenticeship because I didn't have a lot of free time. Service work is very demanding, and especially if you're busy, you can go well into your evenings. And sometimes if you're doing service work and you got an emergency call, it'll go even further into the evening. You'll get called out of bed. But what I'm noticing now is that the faster I'm getting and the more skilled I'm getting, the more free time I have in the afternoon, or in the evening, I should say. So it really depends on where it is. If it's renovation season like it is right now, there are days I still get home 7:30, 8 o'clock. But most days I'm home by 5:36. You know what I'm saying? So it gets better as you get better, Vatu. Um, James Wise, what city are you in? Arian's asking questions. Avis, have you noticed people moving to Ontario from other provinces for incentives Ontario gives their new apprentices if they are trying to get into plumbing? Avis, I haven't noticed. I was always under the impression that the incentives are nationwide, but I could be wrong. I don't know where I got that impression from. I haven't noticed people coming to Ontario specifically for that. Avis, have you? Matthew, you sweet man. I appreciate the love, man. I appreciate the super chat. Peeps, if you do donate to the super chat, it's going straight towards editing and video editors. So I appreciate you helping me out. Nathan N., do plumbers work at heights a lot? Also, is HVAC harder? So, Nathan, I don't do much HVAC. I'm not going to be the best person to answer that question. But in regards to heights, Nathan, we do work at heights from time to time. Like we get on ladders. But most of the time I notice if I'm working from, it's a little bit rare for me. Peeps. Peeps, first of all, my battery's about to die. I got to end this live chat in about, I'm going to say in 7 minutes, okay? If my phone doesn't die by then, 7 minutes. So, Nathan, working from heights is something that we do, but there's a lot of protocol involved in that, especially at high heights. David, David, I'll answer your question in a sec. Give me a sec, brother. Let me get this. Who's asking this? That was Nathan N. Okay, so Nathan, there's a lot of protocols involved in that. If you're working at a tremendously high height, who just gave me Deontay? I appreciate the love, brother. I appreciate it so much. Keep plugging away. Keep doing what you're doing, man. You're doing the right thing. Just keep doing, man. I'm so proud of that story, man. Keep going. I want to know all of your progress in this. Okay, Peeps, there's a lot of questions coming this way. So, Nathan, if you're working at a really tall height, a lot of times people get scissor lifts. And there are protocols involved with that in regards to harnesses. So you need harness work and all that stuff. It's not a game. It's not a deal breaker if you're bad with heights. That's what I think I'm trying to say to you, Nathan. What you have to do is get involved with learning the rules and stuff like that. And also, I mean, if you have a really big problem with it, you can just talk to your foreman or your boss and say, look, I don't do well with heights. I'm going to be on the floor here. And, most bosses, I think, would be good with that. Now, if you are willing to challenge that fear, then I think you should, because debilitating things are hard on people. You know what I'm saying? Only if you could in a safe environment, but you're going to learn a lot. You're going to learn a lot in regards to harnesses and stuff like that. All right. I hope that helped. So there's a lot of conversation between Aaron, Nathan, and his commercial plumbing heights is something you'll deal with. Being on lifts and stuff. Also, HVAC or tin bashers. It's a lot easier, not as first house plumbing. All right, I don't know about that, but I'll take your word for it. David goes, Kenny, how can I reach you privately? I have a proposal for you. David, shoot me an email. If you go to my YouTube channel, my About page, it has an email there. Basically, it's kennymolotov@gmail.com. Shoot me an email. I'll definitely be interested in listening to that. Aaron R., I do know someone on the east that has the same name, but in Columbus, Ohio. Matthew goes, I have eczema or atopic dermatitis, and I get really bad skin when I work with a lot of water. So Matthew, what you can do to combat that is wear gloves, but the gloves will make you sweat, so that might make your eczema a little bit worse. And what else? What else can you do? So do you get it on your hands, Matthew? Because I find the most area that gets wet it will be your hands. Some people might not get it on their hands, but if you do, then maybe gloves might be an answer for that. That might be a good thing. I don't know. That might be your hurdle. Do you know what I'm saying? That might be your challenge to try to keep your hands dry throughout the entire day. It's not very common that we get wet in our trade, but unfortunately, when you do get wet, it's usually a bad situation and you get really wet. So that I don't know if that's helpful to you, Matthew, but that's all I really know how to answer. Avis says, thank you. Take care. Take care, Avis. Is this something I should steer clear of, or can you wear gloves while working a lot of the time? So, Matthew, you could always wear gloves, to be honest. It's within your rights. The only times I would worry about wearing gloves is if there's a grip issue. So, for example, you got to make sure if you're climbing up a ladder, for example, that those gloves have some grip. You don't want gloves that'll help you slip off a ladder. So that's the only time that I think gloves is an issue. Also, Matthew, you have to wear specific gloves for certain things. When you're using a drain machine, for example, you have to wear drain machine gloves. So there are definitely gloves allowed. Matthew McKay, a new construction means a lot of dry pipes. Good chance you'll never be near water. Good point, David. Good point. How much does it cost to become a backflow tester? James, man, I think I paid a couple $100 to take the test. And once you take the test and you pass, then you got to buy your backflow tester, which can cost up to $1,000 to $2,000, depending on which one you get. I think the more simple ones are in the $500 range. But after that, it's just licensing, and I think you make it up within the first 3 or 4 customers, to be honest. Maybe not. If you bought your backflow tester, it'll probably take you a while to pay that off. You're probably looking at anywhere between 5 customers, something like that. Vatu, how many days do you have off? Vatu, this will be different depending on the company you're with. If you have benefits, you might have an entire month off depending on the company. I have 2 weeks off in a year. I think that's the law in Ontario. You have to give 2 weeks paid vacation. So I get 2 weeks off, and if I'm sick, I take days off, basically. That's how it works. Thank you, David. I'll try to not let that stop me. Absolutely, Matthew. I think you can make that work. Epsom salt, James Wise is saying. Thanks, Kenny. I don't know what to do, electrician or plumbing. I'm sick of working dead-end warehouse jobs, and I feel I need to do more and provide more for my family and I. Nathan, I have a video on this, plumbing or electrician. Honestly, I think if you're the type of individual that enjoys the trades, you're going to like either road because there are pros and cons to each job sort of thing. So Nathan, take a look at that. I do a little bit more of an explanation of it. So take a look. Go through my last few videos. Roger Wakefield. Oh, we got a famous person here. Roger's in the house. Roger says electrical sucks. Roger, my man, good to see you, brother. Good to see you. Hope you're doing well. Nathan, and Sparky bad, plumbing good, David. And of course, I'm kidding, or am I? David, everybody's ragging on the electricians. Okay. You ain't plumbing, you ain't nothing. You have a good one, fellow plumbers. I'm out. Just remember, walk tools all the way. You ain't plumbing, you ain't nothing. It was lovely to have you here. But do you have to start a war about tools on the way out? That's what I have to ask you. Good luck to you, David's saying. Matthew goes, oh, wow. James Wise goes, ouch. Matthew, nice to see the support. LOL. Peeps, I'm on my way out. It's been a slice talking to you all. Roger, thanks for hanging out, brother. Sorry we couldn't talk more. And, man, I got to shoot you an email so that we can hopefully collaborate if you're down. If you're down. Much love, peeps. I hope this was useful to you. You know, keep doing some delicious plumbing. Thank you for all this. Oh, happy 4th of July, Roger. Happy 4th. I hope you're enjoying some fireworks tonight. It's been nice to listen to you as well, James. Thanks for hanging out. I really appreciate it. Roger, have a lovely night, brother, and I'll be sending you an email very soon. Hopefully we could do something, and I think it'll be good for the communities. Appreciate the love and support, peeps. For all of you celebrating Happy Independence Day, to all our American friends, and stay safe. Wear masks, sanitize if that's your thing, and let's keep doing some delicious plumbing. Peace, David. Send me that email, brother. I'm interested in what you're saying. Talk to you all soon. Ciao.